Hi guys, this video I'm going to start off by telling you a short story. A story about a poor man. But this is not something that you expect. A poor man, but he was content within himself. See, he was poor that he had to walk to work every day in his life. And he was happy walking alone and walking all the way to his work, though he had no companions. But what happened was, as he was walking, he saw his fellow colleagues who traveled to work with their bicycles. And he had a feeling like, what if I had a bicycle? Wouldn't it be much more simpler for me to travel to and from work? And even his fellow colleagues encouraged him, and some even criticized him for not owning a bicycle. So from that day onwards, he started working towards, buying a new bicycle. So he started saving some money every month, and eventually in a few months' time, he was able to afford an excellent bicycle. A bicycle that went far above the standards of his fellow colleagues. So he was so happy that he finally bought a bicycle. Now, as he was going in bicycle to his work, he saw another person who was traveling by a motorbike, and now he felt that he should need a motorbike to go to office. And slowly every day he started thinking that maybe I'm not having the best in the world. I need a motorbike. So now he left the bicycle dream away. So now every day he started working with the view of somehow buying a motorbike. So slowly he earned some money and he saved some, and eventually again in a few months' time he was able to afford an excellent motorbike. Now, after he purchased the motorbike, he saw the top level officials of a company travel by car. Now he wondered, I have a bike, but this is not the highest form of transport that I could afford. So now I need to buy a car. Now, since he has conquered the desire of buying a bike, now he wanted a car which was above his usual weight. So he worked harder, he did different jobs, he did everything he could so that he could afford a brand new car. And after a few years' time, where he had managed to save some money, he finally brought a car that enveloped his status in the company to a high-level employee, that he was traveling in a hi-fi car. Now that he bought the car, he was still not fully satisfied, as he felt that something was missing in his old pie. And now is when other people started telling him that why don't you buy a farmhouse? Because all of us, we all own certain farmhouses, and farmhouses are a great way of relaxation, something that we could have a beautiful weekend getaway at. So now he started working every day and slowly saving some money in order to pay a large sum of money to finally own a farmhouse. So he started from the bike, and then he moved on to a motorbike, and then to a car, and then to a farmhouse. Each and everything that he did just because other people did. And slowly, he himself, without knowing, converted his wants into needs. And by the time he bought the farmhouse, he was 60 years old. Now let me ask you guys a question. In this man's story, what do you think he achieved in that 60 years? Did he really enjoy anything throughout his life? Like, throughout his 60 years, he has been like a puppet to other people's wishes, and he converted their wishes into his needs to match their social status. Now, this is what in philosophy they call as unsettled intelligence. Now, if we take a look at ancient Indian philosophy, such as the Bhagavad Gita, or if we talk about philosophy in general, there is a huge amount of awareness that is given to an unsettled mind. But the question that always one asks is, fine, unsettled intelligence is there, but how does a person of settled intelligence behave? How does such a person talk? How does such a person be? And more importantly, how does such a person approach the concept of life? This is something that can be explained through the Hindu way of life. You see, in the Hindu way of life, there are 4 stages for a human being. The first stage is that of student discipleship, that a person learns during the younger years of their life. The second stage is that of finding a suitable occupation, and more importantly, settling down as a family. Now, what you do in your second stage solely depends on how well you learn in the first stage. And by no means of imagination is the first stage relevant to the modern education system. Because today we are judging a person by a piece of paper that we call a certificate. But back then it was about the true knowledge and wisdom that they possessed through their experience. The third stage is entirely upon how hard you work in the second stage. Now, ask yourselves a question. How many of you enjoy your work? I can bet hardly you can count in one hand how many of us really enjoy our jobs. So when we are working in such jobs, some we don't like, some we like, there is something called as burnout, right? And that is why the third stage is all about retreat. And finally, the fourth stage is about complete renunciation. And this fourth stage is what the Bhagavad Gita says you should have in all four stages of life. Not alone in the last stage where you wouldn't have much to offer than what you would be capable of during a younger age. And that is why if you're able to follow it younger, it is better. This art of complete renunciation is known as detachment. If we are able to stay detached from every work that we do, then there is something that is called as true happiness. And true happiness does exist, contrary to the popular belief where many philosophers say there is nothing known as happiness. Happiness itself is a lie. No, that is something that the Bhagavad Gita doesn't agree with. It always says that true happiness always exists. There is one quote of a famous businessman who once said that if they think that money can't buy happiness, they don't know where to shop. Now I can, kind of Photoshop it to Bhagavad Gita and say, if you think that true happiness doesn't exist, you simply don't know where to search. But it is simply not money that is the source of your happiness, but the realization of yourself is the real happiness. I'll give you a small example for that. Now, if you walk through a desert, there are two types of things that you would see. Either you would see a mirage, or either you would see an oasis. Now, the mirage is just a blurred image of the water that is non-existent, while the oasis is the only reality of water that exists in a desert. Now, more often than not, the true happiness that we go in search of is towards the mirage. It looks attractive. We think it is there, but it is really not present. But a person who is going towards the oasis will definitely have a much longer journey, but as they go closer and closer and closer, they would see their reality come closer to them, and it would become the eternal truth that they were searching for. And that is why the central theme of philosophy is not to run for things, but work in a mindful attitude. And the way you would work in a mindful attitude starts with just freeing your mind, and it will always lead the way. And that is why they say that true happiness does exist, but it is just that we do not know where to look for. Now that's a wrap for this particular episode, and as always, thank you for watching, and until the next episode, it is goodbye.